Hello, welcome to this video in the series, How I Healed Through Complex Trauma. In this video, we're going to look at the process of reconnecting and regulating your body systems and why that's so important. If you feel disconnected from your body, if you don't feel at all, if you seem to feel other people's things going on, but then not react in your own life, if you have really strong emotions, if you have really strong trigger responses, if you're feeling stressed all the time, in constant tension or in pain, if you constantly feel like you need to do things to manage your life and cope, these are all symptoms of underlying trauma and dysregulation that needs to be addressed. And it's through a process of slowing down and reconnecting with our body that we can begin creating the foundations for healing and recovery. When we have traumatic experiences, dependent on the trauma response that our body chose to survive or the responses we're stuck in, we can become disconnected and dissociated from our own experience, from our own body. If we've grown up in ongoing stressful situations, in trauma or abuse, or have been emotionally neglected in some way, we also might not understand how to connect with our emotions because we just learned how to suppress it and repress our feelings, repress our needs, because there was no point in expressing them. We might have been told off for expressing. We might have not got our needs met anyway. There can be all sorts of reasons why we create a barrier between ourselves and our body signals. But a healthy body has needs and it functions with and through these signals to let us know what those needs are, and then we learn how to meet them. If we're not listening to our body, we're not creating a foundation of good health and well-being. Instead, we're avoiding our reality. We're avoiding addressing what we need to survive, thrive, just exist in a body, in the world. So in this video, I'm going to explain how we can go through a process of starting to reconnect with the body, what that might involve, why it's helpful. I'm also going to provide you with some links and resources you might want to start considering. Hello, my name is Terry Lee Shields. I'm host here on YouTube and over at Love School, where we look at natural holistic solutions to trauma, abuse, neglect, other complex problems, other complex symptoms, challenging life events that might have had an effect on us, where we're in need of a healing and recovery journey. And everything we do here is natural and holistic. And taking care of our body is a big part of that. So there's many ways that our body communicate with us. This is through feelings and sensations such as hunger, thirst, feeling tired. And we get these signals and we know I need to eat. I need to stop eating. I need to have a drink. I need to use the toilet. I need to go to sleep. These sort of sensations kind of guide us to keep our energy stable, to keep us functioning, just all the needs our body has just to exist. So that's one level of just feeling and sensation that, especially in cases of abuse or neglect, we might have just either been taught or learned or conditioned to ignore sometimes. I mean, it doesn't even help the school systems and things. You have to, you might have been told that you can't use the toilet when you need it. There's set meal times. You can't eat between, you can't eat in class or whatever it is. All of these conditions that we grow up in society can shape how we learn to respond to our body. And of course, as adults, we might have to learn how to control some of them functions to observe the signal and choose to respond a bit later. That's all part of natural development, maturing, of course. And it's as long as we are aware and we're responding, then that's fine. But what might happen when you have complex trauma is any body signals, especially if there's dissociation. So dissociation is when one of our trauma responses have caused us to almost dissociate our feelings. So our awareness kind of comes out of our body. This is something that needs to be understood a little bit deeper. But essentially, what's happening is we are not attached to our feelings. And especially when, because of the trauma that's linked with a really intense emotional feeling, it can then go on in complex trauma to cause triggers. And we might think any discomfort feeling is negative or we don't understand it, and it can cause lots of dysregulation or even other triggers. So we just learn to kind of dissociate and ignore these signals of our body. And beyond just those physical signals of, needs, say, such as hunger and things, we get emotional signals. Our emotions, I see our emotions as a signal between how we're interpreting our external environment and what it means for us internally. Now, that kind of links to our mind, which we'll dive into in the next video. But our emotions can have all sorts of additional sensations associated with them. We also get intuitive nudges. We get that feeling, our nervous system of our instincts kicking in. This is dangerous, this is unsafe, or follow this, try that. All these different signals that our body's given us at all times, constantly. If we are dissociated, if we're not connected with our body, we're not kind of responding in alignment with who we are and what our reality is presenting to us and telling us about our experience. And when we live our life like that, it can lead us into all sorts of situations. We can feel completely out of control of our life. We can not be meeting our needs. We can be going into environments that aren't good for us, being around people that aren't good for us. We can feel emotionally dysregulated, not understand any of our emotions, just have these either numb responses or really big responses, which have then ripple effects of consequences in all sorts of different ways. So what's helpful at the very beginning, when we're realizing we might not be fully in our body, is just to begin connecting with it again. And that can be done really simply through grounding techniques, mindfulness practices, simple practices and techniques that start to invite our awareness back into the body. What am I feeling right now? What is my body telling us? What are the actual sensations going on? Now, I will link some content for you in the description where you can practice a mindfulness technique and start this process. I'll also link some information about grounding, because there's many ways that we can do that. And grounding is basically, as it sounds, reconnecting with the ground, bringing our energy, bringing our attention, bringing our focus back into reality. And we can do this in many ways. It can be simple things, going for a walk, eating, drinking. These are all ways of bringing our attention and focus back into the body. And especially when combined with mindfulness, and we're doing that with some conscious awareness, when we're really paying attention to that, we're starting to learn what these signals feel like. We're starting to learn how it feels in different states of being and doing things. So make sure you check out the description and get access to those resources. It also works because, especially with complex trauma, we may have gone through long periods of our lives, or through significant events where we felt powerless, where we weren't able to meet our own needs, where we felt our needs weren't being met, where we fell victim to our circumstances. And that state of powerlessness isn't a good condition for health and well-being. It's not good for our mind. It's not good for how we're making choices, how we're showing up in the world, how we're showing up in relationships. So beginning this process of reconnecting with the body and learning and understanding what it needs so we can meet our own needs, having more self-awareness, is actually a process of regaining our power. It's calling all our energy back to us. It's not giving it away to other people or the circumstances of our lives. It's knowing that we do understand ourselves and we can respond to ourselves and we can meet our needs. It also then starts to build this relationship with ourselves, building skills, building a foundation for deeper recovery from trauma, to start to be able to have the energy and have the focus to dive into wounds, to start healing wounds, and to actually go through that process of recovery, which can take a lot of energy and require a lot of focus at times. Our body's really stressed about not getting its needs met, or is actually constantly coping with underlying pain, or has this constant whirl of emotions going on we don't understand. It's just much more difficult to start healing and to start recovery. And the healing and recovery journey at times can become complicated, it can become emotional. And learning these practices and this body reconnection early on, one, helps us to recognize when that is happening, if and when we are becoming overwhelmed. And then it constantly gives us a level and a foundation of stability to come back to calm ourselves again, to rest when we need it, to understand what our body's needing through that process of healing. So practices that help reconnect with your body, like I say, it can be things like grounding, simple exercises that just put us in reality, take us out of our mind and bring our energy and our presence back into the body. And you find different things might work for you. Say going for a walk, doing different exercises, yoga is helpful in that way. The mindfulness techniques, in a shower, having a bath, anything that's really bringing our attention on the sensations in our body, and at the same time working towards either helping us improve our health and well-being in some way, so meeting a need and caring for ourselves. The next level of that might also be realizing that we are in pain, or we are carrying a lot of stress and tension. It certainly was what happened for me when I started reconnecting with my body. I realized, part of the reason why I'm not feeling or having these strong reactions because I'm in constant pain, constantly tense. I just hadn't realized, because that was my normal and I was disconnected from my body. So then I had to start doing extra body care. So this might be things such as massage, or people like things like cold plunging and therapies, holistic therapies, Reiki, reflexology, things that are going to help to shift and move any stuck or tense feelings and sensations that we know probably shouldn't or wouldn't be there without the stress. And again, we're building a relationship with ourselves to learn what works to help reduce our stress and to help reduce all this tension or pain that we're holding in our body. And then the next level of that is beginning to shift the trauma energy. When we have traumatic experiences, part of the reason why we get triggered is because our body remembers what happened. Our nervous system is on high alert because of that, and recognizes the stress and the impact of that situation. So trauma energy can get trapped and stuck in our body if it hasn't had an outlet of that. So that outlet can be actually using up the energy during the traumatic situation. And if that hasn't happened, that's why triggers can be so powerful and things, because we still have this trauma energy trapped in our body. And the way that we get that energy out is through somatic body work. And that's like, again, getting out of our mind and letting our body process these events in the way the body wants to process it. They're kind of formal exercises and things you can do. Obviously, there's like professional therapists that can support with that sort of thing. But that can be things like trauma release exercises, bioenergetics, vagus nerve exercises. It can also be like really fun things like free moving exercises or dance, that just when we tap into like our emotional energy and things, we're using it up, we're processing what's going on. So there's different ways that you can do that, and that's going to depend on what's coming up for you in your journey. And some people might prefer to do that more intentionally with more structure, and other people might prefer to allow that to be more fluid. Part of following that intuition is part of this process of body connection. Our body is constantly telling us, if we are tense and stressed, it's telling us something needs to be released and moved. We're holding too tightly onto something, and the body either hasn't got an outlet or doesn't know how to let it out. So then we build this connection, we build these skills so that we intuitively know how we can start to let it out. Maybe it is through stretching, maybe it is through dance, maybe it is through doing some bioenergetic work. This is why the Love School process is really helpful. So part of the life design that we do is practicing different things, learning different skills, figuring out what works for you, and then knowing what you can use when. It's like paying attention to what's in your toolbox, organizing your toolbox so that you know what tool to grab when you need it. And then as you develop through a recovery process and into a lifestyle in the future, you've got all these tools and skills and they're organized and you know what works. And that's why the life design process and the process that we cover at Love School is life-changing. It's so helpful because as you go through it, it's like you just know. Now that I'm at a much later stage in my recovery and things, I know when my body's holding tension. I know what kind of tension it's holding, and I know what exercise or movement or practices, tools are going to be helpful to use to clear it. I don't have to think, I don't have to consider. It's now just a natural part of my process and my lifestyle, and it's much less confusing and much easier to manage. It's just part of who and how I am now. And then because I do that so regularly and have this connection with my body, it's just second nature. And my body is now able to have its needs met. I'm very aware of the sensations going on in my body, and there's no fear around them or anything. And I can be healthy and more well. If we don't start this process of body reconnection, especially if we then think, well, I just want to fix the trauma, we don't have this stable foundation. What can then happen is our trauma symptoms can flare up and be even worse. If we ignore it, if we just think, well, I don't want to address this now, or I'll address it later, our symptoms can actually start manifesting in different and new ways. This is how we can develop things like chronic conditions. Our body is feeling the stress, the pressure, the additional needs it has not being met, then starts to make our body physically dysfunction. So then we have to deal with worse consequences because not only do we have trauma to deal with and our normal body needs not being met or potentially not being met enough, we then have all these additional needs of some sort of chronic illness to deal with or other physical symptoms. The sooner we start this process and the sooner we start to learn what our body needs and adapt it, the sooner we heal and the less symptoms we're going to have to be dealing with on an ongoing or day-to-day basis. This is a super powerful, sounds really simple sometimes at times, or it might even sound terrifying to you. Allow it to land and just consider maybe how you might want to take the next steps. As I said, I'll put in the description links to some mindfulness practices for the very, very first steps you might want to take. I'll also link in some other information, some helpful content that already exists at Love School that can support you understanding why we do this and how to navigate the differences in what your body needs at different times and different things like that. I'll link that all in the description. In the next video, we're going to look at the next stage of healing, which is starting to look at the deeper issues, the skills we can build to look at the healing process, to start understanding our mind and to start paying attention to how trauma might have shaped how we think and how we're responding and choosing and showing up in the world. So make sure you like and subscribe, and you'll be notified when that comes out. If this is already released in a full playlist, you can watch the next video now. That'll all be linked, probably popping up somewhere on the screen, and there'll be a link for that. Let me know in the comments how you found this video, any insights, anything that was helpful, and I'll see you in the next one.